Welcome back to Armikrog. We go back into my live stream already in progress.
Welcome all you +2 comedy modifiers back to the stream. Welcome back to Armikrog. Now I have promised that today will be the last day we spend reading, and maybe we'll even get to gameplay today. So let's jump right into it. I'm going to turn the lights on so that my face is less dark. And let's get to the reading here. Now immediately I turn into a red monster. Desperation. No water for 4 days. Could be 5. Everything is empty. There's no food on this craft. P does not seem to mind. If you haven't been with us, we're on a spaceship now. She seems healthy, but seems sad at the sight of Melva and I starving. No more giggling. No more crystals. For a while we could make her laugh and she would provide the plutonium to power the ship. We are too weak. The ship is moving, but we don't know where we're going. If I take the last crystal out of the ship grid, the ship will stop, but so will the life system. The color in the last crystal is fading. We will be dead soon. I have tried in vain to learn the controls to alien and strange. I declare my love for Melva to whoever finds this. More desperation. I have decided to do the only thing that might save us. I will use the soul transfer device to put myself into the ship. Then I might be able to figure out how to operate the ship's foreign controls. That makes sense. As much sense as this story can. At first, Melva begged me not to do it. She reminded me of the risks of the strange things that happened to some of the spirits. But eventually she saw it necessary. Saw the necessity of it. Excuse me. I would either die from starvation lying on the floor of the ship, or I would die trying to save us. Melva kissed me and relented. A crazy plan. I clamped one of the soul transfer device's arms onto the control panel and the other onto my arm. Miva reminded me that she would only give me 1 minute. She wasn't going to risk any more time. I nodded and she pushed the button. The purple fuzzball beating inside the device cast light around the room, and I went into the ship. The first sensation I felt was a lack of feeling. The aching hunger was gone. The pangs of starvation that racked my body had slipped away in an instant. It was a relief, but then I remembered the short time I had and turned my mind into other things. I could sense our place in space. Nearby planets and stars took shape in my mind. Their names came to me, although I had never seen them before. I realized the ship must have some navigation computer or log. At this thought, more information poured into me. I could see the ship's entire history in a moment, but my mind grasped at another image. P's crib. P's crib had been pulled aboard by a desperate-looking crew during the heat of battle. The ship door was sealed off before taking off. The crib was chained to the wall. P was force-fed cans of beans to increase the output of plutonium. She didn't laugh or smile. The crewed planet needed the plutonium to survive. There were other planets that wanted the plutonium too, and they were willing to kill for it. As far as the ship's computers identified P as the last of her kind. Maeva's voice echoed inside me. She was telling me to hurry. She was going to transfer me back. In a panic, I pulled my mind from the computer though there were so many more questions I knew it could answer. But I had to get to that control panel. The levers and knobs were instantly familiar to me. I dimmed the bright lights that made it difficult to sleep. I discovered a water generator had been switched off. I turned it on and the ship's water storage began to fill. But something was wrong. Not all the controls were working. I could only make a minor adjustment to our speed. Hey, people in chat. I could not reverse our course, and I could not change our trajectory. I drove deep into the controls, tracing our connections until I found a problem. There were 2 dents in the hull, where the ship had been hit by missiles while escaping. One had torn the metal open and damaged the ship controls. I used the navigation computer to quickly chart a course. We were headed for a nearby planet. I calculated how long it would take to reach it. At that moment, I woke up to the sensation of liquid on my face. Miva pulled me out. She was smiling, holding a container of cool water. I drank it down in big gulps, but it did little to salivate the gnawing hunger in my stomach, or the growing fear in my mind. I told her the bad news. We were about to crash land, and there was nothing we could do to stop it. Alright, so this is making a lot of sense now because in the beginning of the game, you find a baby in a crashed rocket. So one would assume it's this baby. I don't know how this writing would get here. This is kind of implied that it's written on the rocket ship, not on the walls of a museum. But maybe this is just what always happens. I have no idea. Life after the crash. Well, they survived the crash, obviously. A crash landing is difficult to describe with accuracy. When in the middle of it, I did not think of the tumbling would end. It was more of an assault than an event in my mind. Surrounded by noise and violence, papers, panelings, and even my own clothing blurred past my face. We crashed and I was naked. I remember the weird details in times of crisis that come from no apparent reason. I saw a metal tool tumble by. I looked at my own hand and considered my own anatomy in slow motion. I do not know why these things are the things I remember. Hey, Em. Thanks for stopping by. I did see your suggestions. We are working on them. I don't know why I'm looking down when I can look here. I did see your suggestions. We are currently debating them. They get mentioned in the upcoming episode. We're trying to see where we can fit them into our schedule. And now back to reading. When it was finally over, we climbed from the wreckage with few injuries. Miva's arm was broken. I was bleeding from the gash in my forehead. P's crib had landed on top of her, but instead of harming her, it kept objects from crushing her. At the time, I thought it was probably saved her life. Behind us was a jagged line scratched into the planet's surface that documented the trajectory of our landing, so they skidded. Pieces of the ship were ripped from the holes by trees and rocks and scattered to either side of that line. The air was thicker than our home planet, but gravity was comparable, and a yellow haze protected us from the direct sunlight. Alright. Miva knew enough of the healing arts to talk me through resetting her arm, a difficult ordeal. She and P took shelter under low-hanging branches, while I went in search of anything that could be salvaged from the wreckage. Over the course of the day, I dragged chunks of the shrimp's carcass back to Miva, where she, using her one good arm, assembled a makeshift shelter. P seemed oblivious of the peril of the situation. I would put bushes on my head and dance around for her, constantly making her giggle. P's happiness was a comfort to Miva. The first night, why does it always get darker? It just becomes harder to read and it ticks me off. The first night, we huddled together in our shelter and listened to the animal noises that put chills in our bones. The planet sounded all the more threatening, and I knew it would be a matter of time before the beast broke into our temporary housing. Most days I worked on the water generator. The few stores of water we had were nearly exhausted, and a survey of the area revealed no water though there were plants growing on the hillside that I assumed used water to survive. The water generator wouldn't, again, no apostrophe, power on, and I considered leaving Miva and P to go on a more exclusive search for water. Another howl deep in the brooding came from the forest, as if to threaten me if I ventured too far from camp. Our love for P motivated us to keep trying and to keep us from falling into despair. I fussed with 3 wires on the water generator and it came on for a few seconds, then made a popping sound and seized up in a cloud of smoke. I feared I might have damaged it beyond repair, so in desperation, I used the sole transfer device to put myself into the machine. That makes sense. Once inside, I could see what must be done. I also discovered that the water generator was actually a matter generator. It could pull water from anywhere because it changed the array of any molecule into water. With a little work, the water generator became a matter generator. I was able to make simple objects with it. It turns out it was a 3D printer. I started with bricks, then I made hammers and then screws for bricks, which seemed like a mistake at the time, and bolts and basic levers. I repaired the power grid using the green engine room as a power generator. We fed the plutonium, which I think is spelled differently than it's been spelled this entire time, into the grid. It offered more than enough power for anything we needed. Wondering, did you see the original reboot? Wondering, did you see the original reboot if you're doing the Guardian's code for Stay Tuned? Guardian code. I don't know about that one. Because it's nothing like the reboot and everything like Code Yokio, almost plagiarism. I don't remember you saying Guardian code as a suggestion, but I will look into Guardian code as well. I'm losing all the saliva in my mouth, I can feel it. Previous visitors. During the day, when there were less animals roaming around, Miva and I explored the surrounding area to discover we landed on the far end of the long valley. On the opposite end of the valley, we found a rock with testimonies of previous visitors scratched into its great surface. We do not know who wrote them, but wrote a commentary on each of them to acknowledge that they are part of our history. All right. The opposite side of the previous visit. Okay. I'm trying to think if this is where we are currently in the game. Like, if this is that location. But I feel like that's probably wrong. Boharam? I hate that there's also no, like, status bar here, so I can be like, I wonder if I'm getting to the end, so I have no idea. Alright, here we go. Boharam. Oh, these are the people that were here before. Alright, let's go. Boharam, he was a great scientist who flew to this planet hoping to perform experiments using an artifact of time bending. The date next to Boharam's name suggested that he landed on the planet some 500 years in the future. And the space maps he drew are beyond the accuracy of the scope of contemporary maps. Boharam discovered a planet he named 26229 and was considered by the future scientific establishment as having similar parameters to his home planet. Boharam applied his time-bending theories to space travel and blasted off to live on planet 26229. His last words are here carved into the stone before leaving. Let us get this show on the road. I'm gonna be real pissed if all these people are just Kickstarter like supporters, which is entirely possible at this point. Armikrog. He was a great military commander. Armikrog's body was so badly injured in various wars that it was mostly replaced by machine parts, including a 15-foot robotic legs. He was a tall boy. One day his suit was so badly injured in battle that he used a furnace tending suit as a replacement. He could no longer fight in wars, but he could still tend to the furnace, so he remained thankful. He had a strange pet, a flat-faced, tentable Maine Kraplin Kraken. Cool. Do I care? I don't care about any of these people. This concludes my commentary on the history written on the stone. I skipped it. I'm sorry. I'm skipping it. I'm getting frustrated. I'll look at the names. So if any of them come back, I will admit that I was wrong for skipping this. So Venice, Heverkrog, Blackton, Lungness, and Nickelknot. Alright, I feel bad for skipping it. I'll go back. This then was an adventurous blind girl named Zenith. Wore the seventh ring of Eureka while hiking, and it transported her far away. She lost her old guide animal and went hunting for a new guide animal. Knowing as a half-mongrel. A half-mongrel will not tolerate being stared at, so he never got mad at blind Zillith. She scratched his soft fur and felt his facial expressions to learn his moods. They became inseparable friends. Zealous never returned home, but always had company to keep her warm from her half-mongrel. Armikrog. There was one scientist who spent so much time in his laboratory alone that he went mad. This is Armikrog, the inventor of the procrastinator ray. He hated his planet, but found he could not leave. That made him angry because he thought he was so smart, and he was smart, that he would be able to find a way off the planet. He began to work on a portal to another dimension. This technology is fictional at best, but he claimed to get the idea from his deceased wife, who visited him in a dream while in a feverish delirium. Armikrog built his interdimensional gate while looked like 4 logs bound together by rope. We found the gate, but also found a book of Armikrog's mad theories next to his skeleton, which lay at the base of the gate. For reasons of my own, I believe Armikrog has something to do with the disappearance of Bahuram. Alright, now that maybe it was actually important, so maybe it's good we're reading on this. Blackton claimed to discover a cave, walls covered in ancient finger paintings. His devices of measurement dated the paint using on the wall to be at least 5,000 years old. These could be the oldest inhabitants of the planet. The most fascinating thing about the cave paintings was that they were depicted 99 generations who came before them. The first of that line could be the first being to ever live. The long lineage could also imply that this lineage went on forever into the past, and that only 99 beings could fit on the wall. That also makes sense. Before the most recent generation ran out of space. One other being is scribed onto the edge of the wall. He has a head, 2 arms, 2 legs, like most beings we know, but he is covered in warm flesh, has hair on his head, and wears unique hat and shoes. The translation of the inscription under the cave being sounds something like human being. From Earth. Oh, human being from Earth. But none of us knows what that means. Interesting. Okay. Alright, I'm glad I read this. I take back my comments of wanting to skip it. Lungnus. Lungnus is an honorable and noble being who lived just over 1,200 years ago. He invented an RG Babam that altered the light of any area within a stone's throw. Lungnus developed a distant star that radiated green plutonium energy. One day, that distant planet mysteriously stops emitting plutonium energy. This is suspicious, or this is speculation, but could this have something to do with P? That makes sense. Nickelnaut. Look at this photograph! Walter Nickelnaut was the first astronaut from the planet Ilixen. I don't know if that's an L or not. It's probably an I. Ixen. To find the world something 272 years ago. His ship did not run on Natrium, but on magic. That was back when magic was real. He came to this planet entirely by accident, and he crossed an then unknown hyperspace lane. Nickelnaut was jettisoned across the universe sideways before ejecting from his craft before crashing into the planet's surface. This concludes my commentary of the history written on the stone. Building statues. I used a generator to build statues of my own likeness, and I gave them simple mechanized skeletons so they could help me work. They were capable of working even if I left the room. They were linked by a nerve net, so if I transferred my soul into one, I could move between them, like the game Inside. With my crew of mechanical workers, we built 3 great towers, one lesser tower that would be modeled after Miva's likeness. A great surrounding wall was erected to keep any hostile animals out. Miva and I wrote our laws on the wall, on the doorsteps, and in journals. Even the statues were capable of repeating the laws. We wanted P to be raised in a family that respected each other first and the self second. Respected each other first and the self second. Okay. We assumed P would outlive us. It is our desire that these laws be the foundation of our little society. The name! The fortress has been built to protect my family and our ways. These words have been written so that you may know us better. If you are, friend, take shelter, for to you we give freely this place. But be warned, however, if you seek to bring harm to this family, I have already bent my will against you. Though I am a kind and gentle friend, I am an even fiercer, terrifying enemy. If your designs are to harm, I will unleash Miva's wrath on you. The three enigmas will ignite, the Harbinger will be awakened. Enemies know the name of this fortress and fear it. Armikrog, so it's a place!
If you want more of this very strange point-and-click puzzle-y adventure, be sure to subscribe to Plus 2 Comedy Gaming. And you can also check out some of the other games we play here. They're fun too. And also, I'm doing this with a broken microphone, so I'm sorry if this sounds weird. But if you want to join me live on Twitch, I'm Plus 2 Comedy on Twitch as well. That is plus the number 2 comedy. Thank you so much for joining me, and I will see you next time. Boop!